That's a long story, but I'll shorten it up a bit for you. I was a child prodigy in electronics, and so I began very young, at the age of 8, developing electronic circuits, and sold my first invention to the Air Force when I was 11, and continued. I worked for the Pentagon when I was in my teen years, and during this period of time I met a Dr. Henri Kawanda. Now, Dr. Kawanda is known as the father of fluid dynamics. He had over 500 patents on the way fluids flow around objects. He had flying saucers, literally things that levitate by using air flowing over a surface, but with no moving parts. And he built the world's first snowmaking machine that turns liquid water into ice by passing it through a special nozzle that he developed. And so he was 80 when I met him, and I was 17. We were working at a Pentagon think tank, and he had a birthday party. And at the birthday party, I said, I hope I'm as healthy and as strong as you are when I'm 80 years old. And Dr. Kawanda said, Patrick, when you're 80 years old, we'll talk about it. And so everyone laughed at the party and thought it was a nice little joke. And a few days later, he called me into his office. And he said, Patrick, I want to share something with you that I've worked on all my life for 60 years. And he said, I will not complete this project in my lifetime, but I feel that you will. So I'm going to give you my lifelong project, which has to do with finding the fountain of youth. Because he said there really is a fountain of youth. He said water is the most important nutrient that we put into our bodies, and it's the most ignored. And he said that water all over the world is different from location to location. And he said that he could actually predict the average lifespan of anyone in the world simply by testing the water they drank. And he could tell within a 5-year period when they were going to die. And so he began to give me his research on water. And basically he said that the best water in the entire world was found in a place called Hunza up north of Pakistan. And he said that the properties of Hunza water, which had what he called anomalous properties, were such that if I could build a machine to duplicate those properties, that I would bring Hunza water to all the people in the world, and it would profoundly affect the entire world. And so he gave me his research, and I began my lifelong quest for Hunza water. Finally, after almost 30 years, discovered the real secret of Hunza water was a special mineral found in the water, a special kind of colloidal mineral, and finally duplicated it after a period of a few years, and came up with a product called Crystal Energy, which was the very first development in this field. And from that developed a dry powder mineral called microcluster powder, and this is all nanotechnology. These minerals are very, very small. They're perfectly spherical. They're about 5 nanometers in diameter. 1,800 of them would fit side by side across a red blood cell. And these minerals have very unusual properties. One of these properties is that they can coat nutrients and protect the nutrients from oxidative damage. They can help carry nutrients into the body so that the body can absorb more of those nutrients. And it was during this period, and I was taking these products all along, and friends kept saying, what are you taking, what are you doing? You look younger than you did 15 years ago, you look better, or whatever. I was reading some work by Albert St. Georgi, the Nobel Prize winner in chemistry for metabolism, for metabolic research, he also discovered vitamin C. That's also his claim to fame. And I like to read his works over and over again because I learn something new every time I read what he wrote. And one of the things that he said that is, number one, he said that hydrogen is the fuel of life. And he went on to explain how all the food we eat ultimately breaks down into hydrogen, which is burned by oxygen, creating energy that powers our body. And the end result of that long biochemical process is the production of water, and the release of energy, which runs our bodies. And the second thing that he said is that no electron moves in the body unless it's coupled to hydrogen. And the other thing that he said is that all living systems store hydrogen in their tissue. eventually found that all living fluids of every living organism, every fluid from any living organism is loaded with negatively ionized hydrogen. And so I realized that there was a missing ingredient no one had ever talked about in food, which is H-, negatively ionized hydrogen. And I realized that I had made some kind of a discovery of something in fresh food that has been missed.
I mean, essentially what you've done is allowed people to have Hunza water in a capsule. In a way, I mean, that's essentially what you've allowed.
So Dr. was right. I mean, he said, I believe you found the fountain of youth, and lo and behold, you have found it.
Well, it's even more than Hunza water because we have billions and trillions of times more hydrogen in microhydrin than you find in Hunza water. So it's really a phenomenon way beyond that.
Even a much step beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and, I heard you say once that one capsule would be equivalent to, I think, 10,000 glasses of organic orange juice.
Right.
The fuel of life in a capsule where you can provide exactly what the cells of the body need for their healthy function on a daily basis so that they can resist the disease process, and in turn, if they happen to have one of these pathogens or something that's going to make them sick, make it be able to fight it off using their own natural defenses.
Exactly. And of course, biological terrain is the first natural biological defense system of the body that are stealing hydrogen from DNA. You know, the DNA chain is made up of hydrogen. It's like a hydrogen ladder. And when the body doesn't have sufficient antioxidant power, free radicals steal hydrogen from the DNA, damage it, and this accelerates the aging process.
And that causes gradual deterioration of cells.
Right.
People get sick, people get old, just by this whole chronic process with the free radical damage.
Right.
In addition to that, you've created, and this amazes me, a process that no one can duplicate. I mean, this thing is so complicated that only you know how to do it, and many people understand from all over the world have tried to duplicate it and come back with you on bended knee and say, well, please tell us how you do it, right?
Well, the key is the microcluster technology.
You know, he was in Life magazine when he was 17 years old. They were calling him a genius, the whiz kid. And I read that article, and you said some incredible things in there. I mean, even at that age, you seem to have a vision that you were on this planet to do something far beyond what anyone could think of at that age.